and turn into a bed, which proved interesting because somebody on some days would not wash well, and you get a foot in your mouth, and then we'd have to correct that person, and the three of us would jump on them, throw them to the floor, and say, "You're staying there." And that's where they slept. And that's the truth. I'm not telling any lies here. Not yet, anyways. Since Francis and I were in the middle, and Mom and Dad were chasing after the others on both ends, we decided we had more freedom than them. So we were watching TV one day, and out of watching TV, we had an idea, and it hit us good. So we went down to the foundry, and we found this little red circular thing and some string. So we put it underneath the porch and put the string out, and Fran told me to light it. As I was lighting it, my dad came out of the house, and he says, "What are you kids doing?" Fran said nonchalantly, "Well, Dad, we got dynamite. We're going to blow up the porch." And I'm going, "Oh, my God." Dad was on us, and he jumped on the string, picked us up under the arms, and in we went into the bedroom. And all of a sudden, he said, "Fran, you're first, and Pat, you were older, so you're going last." And in Fran went, and my God, he was screaming so loud, I thought I was going to die. And all of a sudden, he comes out, and Dad says, "You go out on that porch, and you think of how bad you were, and you won't do this again." So out he went, and then I went. I got a spanking, and I was told to sit with Francis and direct him how to do it right. So I went out there, and I was holding my butt, even though I don't have much. Anyways, he was down at the bottom of the step. He looked up and started laughing. And I thought, "What in the heck are you laughing about?" And I looked at him and I said, "What are you laughing about?" He said, "Pat, when we were down at the foundry, I thought we'd get some money." I said, "Some money?" "Yeah, I put these metal in my back pockets, so I never felt a thing. But I had to scream, and Dad thought he was really licking me." And that's a true story, by the way. Christmas was very joyful for us, unless you got coal in your stockings for being a naughty person. Santa would not give us any gifts for Christmas because we were naughty. So the others would get theirs, but we make our own gifts because we couldn't afford it. Except once in a while, the Salvation Army would show up, or the Marines Toy for Tots would show up and give us gifts. And that was a beautiful Christmas. But it bonded us closer together. This one is kind of uniquely different. I recall one Christmas, I was in my teens, so I could drive, and so could Fran, but we decided, let's go to church early, because early church you could get out quicker. Sorry about that, but we got on the road, but it was icy and snow, and my 40 Buick that I bought for $15 had bare tires. So it took us a while to get to church. And when we got to church, the priest was closing the door. And all of a sudden he stopped us and said, "What kind of parents do you have that would allow children to come to worship the birth of Jesus so late?" And I thought, boy, that was a bad thing to say, because Fran looked and said, "We don't have bad parents. By the way, you must have been raised by lousy parents to say that about my dad and mom." And he says, "We're going." And we went outside. And I said, Fran, whatever we do, let's not go back home because we're going to have to say we didn't go to church. So we went and had breakfast. But by the time we got home, as we were getting out of the car, that priest tattled on us. And they come off on the porch, and Dad says, Patrick, what did you do? And Fran says, hold it, Dad. It wasn't Patrick, it was me. And they looked at him in shock because Fran was always so innocent, supposedly. And he told a story. And all of a sudden they looked at each other and said, oh, why don't you come on and have a cup of coffee with us? And we had a very good Christmas. I don't know about the priest, but we don't care. Anyways, another story is he constantly picked on me, or I picked on him once in a while. And I was so mad at him, I knew that certain times of the day, he would always read an encyclopedia or a book. And when he read a book, he really got into it. And he created an embarrassing moment. And that's when I snapped a picture. And I said, Fran, I'm going to give it to every friend you have. And all of a sudden, I saw him coming up the stairs, and I ran, and we had a fight. That was our last fight because we hurt each other pretty bad. The picture was when he was really into it, and he hit a good spot, he'd take his thumb and start sucking it. And this was the last time he ever sucked his thumb either. And I tore up the picture, and we never told his friends. Nor you, Vic. As we grew up, we went to college. Some of our brothers and sisters stayed home and worked. Others grew up. And that's when Fran said, Pat, I got somebody I want to really introduce you to. And I said, well, who is he? He says, well, we'll wait and meet him. And it turned out to be this Polak, Vic Nowinski. And we all became friends. And then they got orders for military, and Vic went to Korea, and Fran went to Vietnam. And Fran kept writing me that he was playing tennis every day with the lieutenants, the captains, and all of those other. And don't worry about him. But he says, what I want you to do is not open this envelope unless you get orders for either Vietnam or Cambodia. Well, everybody got orders for Vietnam and Cambodia. And naturally, I showed that letter, and they said, you got to do this. And I said, no, I made a promise. I'm not going to break a promise for you. So I ended up, since they didn't know what to do with me, to go to Korea, which was another story. But Fran also had re-upped to keep me from going to Vietnam, and I didn't know that at the time. Excuse me a minute. Sometimes my nose gets a little drippy here. I found out later he was in combat all the time. And many of the people that he was in combat with never returned. So I am very thankful for him. Due to Fran's ability to read, his mind could almost hold on to everything. So he became like a walking, talking encyclopedia. And we went off to travel Asia together. And the guides, the professors, the lawyers, and all of us, that was part of our group of 10 or 15, wanted to know his background. Fran would not tell him. He kept his mouth shut, and I kept my mouth shut. I said, I don't know where he works. But anyways, they finally came to the conclusion some kind of AI got transplanted in his brain. And we never told. But part of Asia was also an exciting time because good old Francis would invite me and him to volunteer for the delicacies of the Asian people. I'll tell you just a few of them. In one store, excuse me a minute, doggone notes. Oh. Do this when I do that. We were out in the village market, and they told us, "Do you want a delicacy?" And Fran said, "Sure, Pat and I'll eat it." I'm going, "Oh boy." And they said, "Well, do you want the rat?" And they were all moving, by the way. They were in the cages and all that. "Do you want the rat, the bat, the snake, or whatever?" And I'm looking, "I don't know, Fran, what do you want?" Fran took the biggest spider and said, "We'll take that." So they threw him in something and he quit moving and took him back out in a matter of a minute and then pulled his legs off and his head and the body. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be bad. But we had to pretend we really liked it. So Fran takes the head and chews on it and swallows it and smiles. I take the legs and I'm going, "Oh, okay." And I swallow and I try to smile, which is fine. And it went on. In every country that we went to, and we traveled to 4, it's same kind of similar thing had, but this one I always remembered because he volunteered for us to take a bamboo. Now, he knew what was inside that bamboo. I did not. So they opened the bamboo, took out a worm and handed it to him, and handed me a worm. And I'm sitting and watching that little devil move around. And Fran takes it, throws it in his throat, and swallows it. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. That little sucker's going to be moving there for a while. So I just chewed it, and it tastes like chalk. But I had to make it look like it tasted good, so. A buddy of mine snapped a picture of my face, and I was trying to smile, and I wasn't very good at it. In later years, we were lucky to where I was able to buy 2 cabins and fix them up. But my brothers all came and our friends to fix them all up to make them real nice looking cabins. So we always would have a celebration once a year, sitting around the campfire, telling stories about the family and all that. And then one day, Fran was working on the dock with me, and I said, "Well, okay, you need some parts, I'll go get it." So an hour away to bring her to Baxter. And as I was in there, I thought, well, I better call and see how Fran's doing. He would not answer the phone. And I thought, something's wrong. So I called the owner next door, the resort, and I said, "Scott, will you go and check out my brother? He's not answering the phone and I'm scared." So Scott comes on and he says, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's fine." I said, what is he doing? He said, "Well, I didn't want to disturb him because he was talking to himself, looking at the sky and the eagles flying by and everything else. So I thought he was having fun. So I left him there. And I thought, wow, this is really something. Well, as time progressed, we ended up adopting another brother. And that was none other than the great Earl Wilson. And I'll tell you, he was a hoot and a holler. We would exchange, I don't know if you guys know what element gifts are, but surprises. You wrap them in newspaper or something. So you don't know what you're going to get, but it's a lot of fun. We played pranks on each other. We went on a tree chain lake, and with a pontoon, we went fishing. We did all kinds of stuff. We even went to casinos just to entertain us. Now, Fran didn't gamble, so he just watched us lose our money. Anyways, it turned out, oh, by the way, we also had campfires at night to just talk about the family and the fun and all that stuff. And Fran and Earl did not like me winning, and I don't know why. Because they would cheat. Of all things, they would con me. Every time I went to the bathroom or outside, they would con me. And I come back and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And it turned out they were mad at me because every time I won, I just hit King Patrick and put a big smiley face on the paper, and they didn't like it. Then I heard, when I walked out one day, Earl was outside. He didn't know I was behind him. Boy, this nose is getting out of hand here. He didn't know I was behind him, and he was talking to somebody on the phone. I didn't know who. And he says, well, I'll describe Pat's cabin. Visualize two very, very large outhouses. He's converting them into cabins. And I thought, you jerk, just because I got you that morning, what are you saying to everybody? But it was a fun time. Well, I could go on, but I won't, because the most important part is here. Francis had a strong spirit of true love, honor, fun, and a very caring heart for BJ, his wife, his daughters, Ashley and Amanda, the grandkids, and friends that he touched. This is a celebration of a great person. Francis is now joined with his wife, BJ. Let us never forget the past, the present, and the future. And let time heal and seal the past while it wines and dines the future as you walk on the path forward. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those memories, Patrick. The second family member that we'll share right now will be Fran's daughter, Amanda Maloney.
Now, my stories might not be as good as Uncle Pat's. So we'll fast forward a little bit to 1985. When I was younger, not more than 10 years old, I noticed that my dad spoke at every funeral I was at with him. When I started asking him about the funerals before I was born, I would say, "Dad, did you speak at your mom and dad's?" He said yes. I kept asking why. My dad was not a pastor. I'm pretty sure my mom chimed in and said, "Your dad likes to talk." My dad smiled at me and told me it was because he was able to express his feelings and memories when often others needed him to. So needless to say, I felt compelled to speak today. It's in my blood. As I tried to put my thoughts together, a memory came to me. This past summer, one of my dad's best friends, my Uncle Earl, passed away. Of course, my dad spoke at his service. After the service, my dad came up to me and asked me if I thought he did a good job. I said, "Of course, you always do a good job." He said, "Okay, well, I have so many memories with Earl and didn't want to make it about me, as Earl was a you person. I wanted to make it about how we can carry Earl's you mentality. So for today, I want to focus on how we can carry my dad in our hearts. As you all know, my dad loved tennis. Uncle Pat mentioned that as well. As I got more competitive, he instilled 3 rules always. Number 1, have fun. If it isn't fun, get off the court. And he would tell me, he would say, just walk off the court if it's not fun. Number 2, keep the ball in the court. And number 3, hit it where they're not. Well, if you ever played tennis, number 2 and 3 are easier said than done. But even in college, he would call me before matches and say, remember, rule number 1, then 2, and 3. Through tennis, I spent a lot of time traveling with my dad to different tournaments. During the long car rides, he would hit his limit listening to Britney Spears and boy bands. So instead, we would agree on John Mayer and Jack Johnson. It built the foundation for our long conversations and life lessons he shared with me. He taught me there are friends with a lowercase f, and there are friends with an uppercase F. The uppercase F stood for family, as there are friends that are truly family and part of the special inner circle he often referred to. The love he and my mom showed to one another, and me and Ashley, is very special. Ashley and I would say, "We're only going upstairs," but my dad would still want a hug. The romance and affection between my parents was like no other. Every time they'd watch TV, my mom would plop her feet on his lap and most likely get a foot rub. Now Joe knows why I do that. Gray and Fran had a very special bond with Madeline, Samantha, and Brandon, which will leave a lasting imprint. Lastly, I want to share a few of those life lessons my dad said to me often. The first was something he ingrained in me and Ashley at a young age. In crisis, what is the first thing that you do? Ashley and I would have to say back, "Do not panic." He also would tell me, if you can't say it to someone's face, then don't say it at all. Another favorite saying he enjoyed was, "I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet." My dad's genuine kindness that my mom also had is hard to find. There was never anything he did looking for something in return. He used to tell me to not even expect or want to thank you in return, and then, if I still want to do it, then do it. I hope you can take something I said today to carry with you. I will close with a quote from my dad's all-time favorite book, Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. "The greatest happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved. Loved for ourselves, or rather, loved in spite of ourselves." Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. The third family member that will share at this time will be cousin Heather Wilson, and Heather will also be reading Fran's daughter's Ashley's thoughts as well. So Heather, you can come and share.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Heather Wilson. I'm Earl's daughter, and Ashley and Amanda are my cousins. And we all spent a lot of time growing up and have wonderful, great memories, spending, summers at the beach and et cetera, et cetera. And to this day, we all still make time to spend time together. And Uncle Fran was one of the most intellectual, kind, resourceful guys that I know. And I'm going to share a couple of memories that I have personally with Fran and my dad, Earl. I asked Fran if he knew where my dad had picked up a left-handed guitar from. And I told Fran that I was left-handed, but I was taught to play guitar right-handed. And Fran shared a story about how Fran and Betty Jo took Ashley for guitar lessons, and the instructor had told Fran and Betty Jo that Ashley was left-handed, just like Fran, and would need a guitar that was left-handed. And at this time, it was pretty hard to find a left-handed guitar. They didn't come around very easily. And after giving this much thought, it was decided that Ashley would switch to another activity. And Fran and I also talked a little bit about, so the fact that left-handed guitar, but I actually play right-handed. I'm sorry, this is just coming to me spontaneously. I didn't prepare for these words to come out, so I'm just going to say them. So the last time I talked to Fran, he asked me and told me that I'm actually getting this guitar fixed up, that I should play a concert. But I said, but I play right-handed, and it's going to be strung up left-handed. So I'll have to keep that promise to you guys. It's not going to be soon, though. And Fran and I talked all about how proud he was of Ashley and Amanda and his grandkids and all. And Fran and Earl, my dad, were very close and did a lot of things together and have a lot of great memories. And Fran told me this story about when my dad went to visit Fran and Fran's brothers for the first time in Minnesota. And there was quite a bit of snow on the ground outside. And my dad and everyone were inside the cabin. And my dad looks out and he says, "It looks very pretty outside, just as long as we are sitting here inside staying warm." And that has been the ongoing saying at the cabin ever since. And it is my privilege to read a beautifully well-written story through the eyes of Fran's daughter, Ashley. Dad was so many wonderful things to so many people. He was a truly unique, thoughtful, and dependable man. To me, he held many titles beyond just Dad. After we lost Mom in 2009, he did his best to wear the mom title too. And he wore both with grace and love. Most recently, he earned the cherished title of Grand Fran, with the birth of Samantha, Amanda's daughter, and his first grandchild. Soon after came Madeline and then Brandon, and with them, we saw life and purpose reignite in him. Even our quirky dog, Lucy Pop, who rarely ever shows affection, loved Dad from the very start. That says everything about his calming and kind nature, because dogs do know. His sudden and unexpected passing has brought many of us to our knees. In this time of grief, I've found comfort in nature walks, because nature was something Dad deeply loved. He found beauty and wonder in it, visited 24 national parks, and planning to add more this summer. Reflecting on his life, I've learned more about his and Mom's adventures, BC, otherwise known as Before Children. They knew how to have fun and then continued that joy with Amanda and me. And we are going to carry forward our Hilton Head summers and Disney trips with our own families, including the forever memory of doing Disney with him just last month alongside Uncle Mike and Aunt Helen. And of course, our Taillefer family trip to Europe. So Preston and Maloney's, get ready. Albums of photos tell the story of all the roles he embraced. Captain in Vietnam, friend, brother, son, and so much more. While nothing would be better than more time with him, I find comfort knowing he left this world assured that Amanda and I are cared for. He loved our husbands, Preston and Joe, like his own sons. Dad's legacy is love, laughter, and adventure. We will carry that forward always. And as the saying goes, a father is neither an anchor to hold us back, nor a sail to take us there, but a guiding light whose love shows us the way.
Thank you, Heather and Ashley, for sharing those thoughts. And at this time, the family would like to open it up for anyone who would like to share. You're welcome to come up here, or if you would like just to stand where you are and share your thoughts, you may do so as well. But you can come up.
Morning, everyone. If I didn't get the chance to thank you when you all came in, thank you again for being here. I know there's people that traveled from near and far, but thank you for being here this morning and today in support of the family and friends. So what I've written is a letter to my father-in-law, Fran. The point of my words today are to simply honor, remember, and thank Fran for the memories that I will share with him. I may have thanked him before, but I may have not, so I will use this time to do just that. Fran, thank you for everything. From my college days dating your daughter, Amanda, I would hear her talk very highly of you as a person and a father. During college, I remember meeting you for the first time when you and Betty Jo came to visit during a tennis match weekend. Thank you for being so kind to me from the start. Also, thank you for your patience, kindness, and understanding in good old Fran fashion for taking my friend and I to Walmart, along with your wife and your daughter, so that we could grab food and other essentials that we needed, as we did not have cars at college with us during that time. You might have probably thought, these goofy friends of hers, one that might be dating my daughter, have the nerve to ask me for a ride to Walmart of all things. Are you kidding me? However, I'm sure you probably, again, in good old Fran fashion, as I like to call it, found the positive in the situation right from the start. I hope that you were amazed by our most likely outfits that day, as we dressed up for the occasion for you and your wife and daughter. Basketball shorts, a cutoff t-shirt, a hat tilted up into the side most likely, and Adidas sandals. I can't remember, but I really hope that neither of us, I was a different person back then, had even a scent of alcohol on us from the night before. Maybe not, since you still allowed me to marry Amanda. Thank you for welcoming me to Hilton Head for the first time in 2006, as well as long after that. Thank you for listening to all of my stories about growing up in Chicago and Naperville and all of the ins and outs that came with those stories. You always showed an interest in them. Thank you for reminding me, even most recently, that those that are around you, especially your children, will grow up fast and be out the door before you know it. So cherish and take advantage of the moments, because in your words, you don't want to look back and think or have regrets. Thank you for your support and guidance also several years ago, and even somewhat recent, when my very, very best friend returned from a deployment to Iraq as a still very, very, very young man. You showed an interest, but because you had been through it, you offered me guidance, direction, and understanding in reference to how to support him, how to handle what I was experiencing, and also you were simply just checking in on him because you cared. Just so you know, he's doing very well now. Thank you for at least always trying different beers I had at the house. One sip was all you could do, but I remember, as always, it's those hops that you just couldn't handle. I also came to know your brother Mike well, or Uncle Mike as Amanda would call him. And he would always tell me stories from his life. While at times I might have thought that his stories weren't true, I knew I could always ask you in the future to validate Brother Mike's story for me. And you would always answer me with oh, that story is most definitely true. Good old Brother Mike, that teddy bear that you know, was known for being in situations just like that, and living to tell them to you and others. He's not kidding around with you, I promise. The last item I bought and was proud to show you was a new Martin guitar. It was something you were interested in, and while I was talking about its sound, specs, and where they were made in good old Fran fashion, you wanted to know what kind of wood the guitar was made from. I would have played for you that day, but I'm not sure you would have been interested in my playlist from the 90s and the early 2000s. I know you would have wanted the Rolling Stones, the Doors, and others from the 60s and 70s. I promise I'll learn a few of those for you. Thank you for being a loving grandfather and grandfriend to my children. They will always cherish their time with you, and we'll be sure to constantly remind them of you. You traveled the world, and I was always interested in hearing about your experience in certain places and the different cultures and food of everywhere. Thank you for sharing. I also will always remember your stories and information from growing up in Minnesota, handling your dad's tax forms as a young boy for him, true story, serving in Vietnam and the details from it that I would ask you about and you would tell me, and stories from your experiences as a father, husband, and a friend. I'll also always remember in good old Fran fashion that no matter what the situation is, even if it's literally a catastrophe, to remain positive even if it's tough and look at the positive of the situation rather than the negative, regardless of what it is. Rest in peace and enjoy now being with your wife that you loved and miss very much. I miss you, love you. Cherish our memories and promise I will take care of your daughter and grandchildren, even if I drive them crazy while doing it.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, come on.
I'm Aunt Helen, Mike's wife, and this is what he wrote, and he's just not able to get up here. A lot of what Pat said is a lot of background that Mike was bringing up too, about how they grew up on the poor side on Cedar Avenue in Minneapolis. And they went to the Irving Elementary in Holy Rosary. As Pat said, their house was next to the railroad tracks. Well, Fran, Pat, and Mike were always together because the other two were the girls. So the three boys growing up right then were very close. And they would play on the trains in the caboose and do different things. But then they would wait for the trains to start up. And as they would start up, they would run and jump up on the ladders and ride the trains down the tracks until it would start going too fast and they'd have to jump off before they would get hurt. Needless to say, they kept that secret from their mom, so she wouldn't sit there and start giving them spankings again. There was a metal foundry, as Pat said, close by the house. They would make lemonade and go sell it to the factory workers. And then the factory workers would take them in and show them the different things that they were making and so forth. There was also Old Dutch Potato Chip Company, and they would take their red wagon and go down to the Old Dutch, and the workers in there got to know them all, and they would put gunny sacks of chips out for them to take them back home so that they could feast on potato chips. So while growing up, the three of them would dare each other to do different things and get into trouble. It was always something. One of them had a thought of doing something. So one day, Fran and Pat decided to build a tent in the shed. And as they put this blanket up and everything, they then had the smart idea to do a fire inside the tent to keep warm. Well, needless to say, y'all know what happened there. They almost burnt the shed down, and both of them ended up getting spankings again. So in 1950, while their mother was having Mary, all of them had to go to an orphanage and stay at an orphanage for a while. And Homer was the baby at that point. And they put the girls in one area and Fran, Pat, and Mike in another area, and then they put Homer over where the babies were. Well, needless to say, the boys didn't like that at all. They would go in and steal Homer and bring him back to them and put them under the bed to hide them. So, at that point, their uncle and some of their very good friends were able to get their father with a hardship discharge from Korea and brought him home so that they could all get out of the orphanage. And then around 57, they moved to Osseo, which is a suburb out of Brooklyn Park, and they all went to Osseo High School. Says, I used to take Fran with me. This is for Mike. I used to take Fran with me a lot during our time growing up. This is because he would not tell Mom and Dad what I did. Sometimes I would give him some money just to keep quiet. In high school, I would pay him to write my reports for English and history. But I wasn't the only one who wrote these reports. He made quite a bit of money during high school for all his kids in high school. Each summer, we would all get together, along with Vic and Earl, and spend weeks together at Pat's cabin. We will always have those very wonderful memories. I was very fortunate to have spent a week with Fran at our house the middle of November of this time period. So that's what Mike said. But for me now, to give you guys, we all talk about how Fran was so intelligent. And I know just about every of us went to Fran with a question. Or, hey, can you help me understand this or that? Well, I got to learn that when you did that with Fran, you would immediately say, Fran, I want the short version. Otherwise, you'd be there half an hour to an hour, and you would know this subject so far out, it isn't funny. I have a text message between Fran and I right after he was here in November. And we all know how, we all know how Joe said how he was showing him the guitar, and Fran said, well, what is that? How is it made? And this is how Fran did. He would nitpick at you over things. So after he left, I wrote to my darling brother-in-law, who I love, even though he can be a pain in the with his nitpicking. So he writes back to me and says, thanks, Helen. I consider your reference to my stimulus focus on both the big picture and the microscopic detail to be a sweet compliment. That was our Fran.
Is there anybody else who would like to share? You don't have to come up here if you don't want to. You can just stand where you are. All right. Thank you to everybody who shared. What fun memories, right? And you just saw just a glimpse of who Fran was. And at this time, we'll remember Fran with another song, Shower the People by James Taylor. And during this song, a slideshow will be playing in memory of Fran. So take this time to remember him during this time.
You can play the game and you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. But tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing a fool? But one thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Whoa, father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do as you cannot hide. This is widely known. And what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone. Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about this squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love, yes, and show them the way that you feel. I know things are gonna be just fine if you only will. What I'd like to do to you, shower the people you love with love, show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Yeah, show them the way that you feel. Whoa, yeah, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you'll feel better right away with love. Show take much to do that you feel. Sell your pride. Shower the people you love with love. I say, show them the way that you feel. They say you never like people you love with love. They say the rain must fall that you feel. Just like a pouring rain. People you love with love. Make it rain. Show them the way that you feel. Make it rain. Shower the people you love with love. The sunshine. Show them the way that you feel. Oh, yes, make it rain. Shower the people you love with love. The sunshine. Show them the way that you feel. Right here. Shower the people you love with love. Everybody, show them the way that you feel.
You guys can keep watching the slideshow as I talk. Fran lived an incredible life, an amazing life, and we just saw a glimpse of that today. Just think about all the traits that we've talked about today. He was loving, he was kind, he was generous, he was a great mentor, leader, and many, many, many more things. That's the legacy that he left behind you. So again, the challenge for us today is, what will you do with that legacy? Will you remember it? Will you hold on to it? Will you walk in the legacy that he left you? And I want to challenge you to do that. When you have someone to leave a legacy like that, it's really a blessing because not everybody gets that type of a legacy left behind them. So cherish it, remember it, and walk in that legacy. At this time, we will conclude our services here at the funeral home, and Amy and her staff will come forward and give us directions on what to do next. Amy?
Friends and family, thank you so much for being here. I couldn't help but think, as Mr. Pat was sharing earlier, and I will age myself here, but I kept picturing the book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, in which the little neighborhood hoodlums get cast in the Christmas pageant. I feel like that, it felt familiar as you were sharing these stories, like I'd read it somewhere before. What a wonderful life, though. We are going to dismiss in just a moment. We have another song to play, and we're going to lead the family out. The burial is at Raleigh Memorial Park, which is off of Glenwood. We do not have a police escort, so we will not be traveling in official procession, but I would just ask that if you are going to the cemetery with us, if you would remain in your cars in the parking lot and give us a chance to get the hearse and the immediate family out of the premise first, and then by all means, please just meet us over there. It is in the back veterans section, so if there's not someone at the front to lead you, just keep going toward the back of the cemetery and you should see us back there. Thank you again for being here. We'll begin the last song and then we'll dismiss.